Hi everyone, Birger here. This is an interview that I did back in 2008, and it was because I won a Golden Dragon Award for my Neverwinter Nights game, or module as it's also called, for my module Surviving Horror 2. And since this interview is so old, I thought I'd make an update and share it with you guys. Maybe my new fans, or yeah, keep in mind that what I talk about in this interview may not be like projects that are active or some stuff like that. Enjoy! I was interviewed by a guy called BGP Hughes. He made some awesome modules for Neverwinter Nights, like the Wanderer and other modules. In this interview, I will be the voice of him too. But in another variant of my voice. Today we have an interview with Erik Berra Karlsson, whose module Surviving Horror 2 won the Golden Dragon Most Replayable Module Award for 2006. We learn a bit about his horrific taste, as well as what he's up to now. What made you start building modules for Neverwinter Nights? Well, the reason I started to create modules for Neverwinter Nights was because I wanted to create my own games. I've always been interested in games and the stories behind them, and the dream of mine has always been just that, to be able to create my own stories that players can play and enjoy. Earlier I have created maps for Heroes 3 Age of Empires, which I have not released to the public, and come up with my own original stories behind them. But with Neverwinter Nights 1, I have been able to create the games just as I want them to be, since the toolset gives you so much freedom once you learn how to script, which took a long time to learn, by the way. I usually don't care to stick with the Dungeons and Dragons settings, that I've not been that familiar with anyway when I create modules, like most people tend to do. I just use my own imagination and try to bring the story I have in my mind to life with the Neverwinter Nights toolset. Ever considered switching to Neverwinter Nights 2? Yes, I have considered it, mostly because it is the future of mod making and that it has such incredible graphics if compared to Neverwinter Nights 1. But I still think Neverwinter Nights 1 works for module making. And if you look at the module releases for Neverwinter Nights 1, you can see that new mods still keep on coming. The reason to why I have not switched to Neverwinter Nights 2 yet is mostly because I find the toolset to be so much different compared to the original for Neverwinter Nights 1. It seems to be a whole new learning experience. A learning experience which I haven't managed to get into yet. What was the inspiration behind the Surviving Horror modules? I've always loved horror, and being able to create a horror game is one of my greatest passions. And I usually get my inspiration from all the horror works I watch, play, or read during my spare time. The main inspiration for the Surviving Horror series came from Capcom's Resident Evil series, a game series where you are mostly a lone survivor that tries to escape the clutches of the ever unrestful undead. I've collected most other inspiration from all the horror films I have watched, as well as other horror games I have played through the years. One of the scariest games I have played must be Doom 3 for PC, I think. It literally chills your bones and makes you jump off your chair more than once. I can tell you that for a fact. Surviving Horror 2 was inspired by Resident Evil and was also inspired by the gaming series Silent Hill. A Japanese horror where nightmare becomes reality and walls and floors become drenched in blood and rust, and deadly monsters lurks in the darkness. The run or die concept that I've used for both modules was something I came up with myself since I wanted to somehow bring fear to the players. Something that occurs when you know that, if I don't run, then I'm going to die. I personally think it's a great concept. It makes the player value their lives more than in other modules or games. What did you think when you first heard about the Golden Dragon Awards? I thought the idea sounded fantastic and I thought maybe I'll be able to claim one. Great! Once I saw the different categories though, I thought, oh, okay, maybe I won't be able to win such a prize. Since I first thought you were going to create genre categories like Best Horror Module, which I thought I would be able to claim for sure. Imagine my joy when I actually won one of your categories, and for replayability no less. Incredible! I also managed to win over Ossian Studios' Darkness Over Daggerford, which was also nominated for that category. Being a lone author and winning over a module that has had multiple modders working on it was simply amazing. I think it's great that you've started giving out these rewards, since that is truly what this vault needs. You took a long break for Neverwinter Nights. Was that burnout? Nah, not really. I just felt that I had other more important things to do. For example, I was in the middle of a movie project inspired by Silent Hill. You can check it out on Birger Pictures on YouTube. That I wanted to finish and a lot of other stuff that I thought needed to be done. Thus I decided to leave my module hobby behind in favor of other things. And now it seems you're back. Want to elaborate? Indeed. I am currently back into the swing of things and trying to create a new module for Neverwinter Nights 1. You can check out my website for more information. This module will probably be more like a fantasy module with occasionally creepy atmosphere, but I have not really decided yet since I'm trying to find out what I would like to do, since I feel like my earlier ideas for a module called Angelic Like was a little dry. So I'll probably try and do something else, something a little more dramatic. Sometime in the future I would like to be able to begin building for Neverwinter Nights 2 as well, but we'll see what that will be. If anyone has any tips regarding the toolset, feel free to let me know. Thanks for this interview, it was great fun. I would also like to send my regards to the players who have played my modules and again give them my eternal gratitude and thanks for showing interest in my creativity. Thank you. Thanks for agreeing to the interview and good luck with the switch to Neverwinter Nights 2. This is Birger outside of the interview. I would just like to mention that back then I was a real horror fan, and in some ways I still am, but I'm more like I don't focus 100% on horror because I think I'd like to keep a fantasy together with some occasional creepy elements, not focus on the creepiness itself by itself, because I don't know if it's age or just well, I've changed since then, and I don't want 100% horror. I want an exciting fantasy story, but that has some creepy elements to it. So that's my style today. That's why I chose dark fantasy as my genre for my stories that I write today. And if you would like to check them out, you can always visit my Patreon in this link or in the link in the description. That's all from Birger outside of the interview. After you watch this interview, you can also check out my Neverwinter Nights podcast interview, where I also talk about my Neverwinter Nights modules. They gained the Hall of Fame and Reviewers Award also. So, and I'd also like to say I'm really grateful that you're here, and know that I appreciate you. Okay? Bye. And a special thanks to all of my patrons. You're the reason I can do this, so I'm really, really grateful.